If you can't explain it in one slide, your offer isn't ready yet. Better yet, if you can't explain it visually, I can promise you that you are losing money and losing sales before you ever even pitch your offer. What's going on? My name is Justice Severin. I run the Coaches and Creators Society, and I am here to help you build a wildly profitable business from a personal brand here without having a large audience to monetize. All right. And today we are diving into a raw essence of how can you go ahead and get your offer slamming? How can you get it where it's in a position where not just that the offer is strong, but really what matters even more so, to be completely transparent, is how you deliver your offer as far as pitching it to your avatar. So many folks get this wrong where they try to double down on their offer, which is huge. I preach my bestseller offer framework. Like, I love offers. I think it's extremely important. But the reality is, if you can't present your offer in a way that's going to actually get someone to want to say, yes, that's me, that's you just checked all the boxes, you're in a tough spot. So this one here is to hit home on that front and so much more. All right. And obviously, too, if you're new to the channel, do me a favor, comment hashtag new below. Obviously, if you're returning, like I always say, you clearly like this stuff, okay? So go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Make sure you're in this. I'm here posting live videos every single week, all right? Every Wednesday at 4 p.m. I'm dropping them, so definitely stay tuned. And obviously as well, if right now you feel like you've got an offer that isn't strong, or you have an area of your pitch that feels like it needs to just get improved on, looking for some strong deliverables, let me know your niche. Let me know where you feel like if you're missing something down below in the comments. I'll be absolutely happy to circle back on that. I handle all the comments myself, so don't think I'm passing you off to a bot or something like that here, all right? But let's go ahead and jump in if that's cool with you. I would absolutely say that most coaches and creators absolutely overcomplicate their pitch with too much information, and it absolutely lacks structure. We're going out here and we're just really kind of getting stuff in front of, very warm prospects, and we are just really going over the top. I've done trainings around this idea of how it's like you need to take the cape off, right? Because we're coming in a lot of times, especially if it's in a sales call, but same thing for the DMs I'll see with voice memos and things like this, where you're coming in trying to really save folks, and you're trying to save them specifically by just giving them everything, and you're just this word vomit. It ends up really doing more damage than it does good. But it's just something that so many people, when you're early on especially, you make this mistake over and over again, right? So I would just reiterate here that if you can't simplify what it is that you actually can do for someone, then you probably aren't clear enough on how you can actually help them. This may feel like a little bit of a bruise because to you right now, you're thinking, I know exactly how I can help my prospect. I know exactly, I'm helping clients right now with this exact thing. I even had a conversation with somebody yesterday on a circle call talking about the difference between referral sales and sales that come from actual cold traffic that you bring all the way through. The reality is, with a referral sale, you can have a garbage pitch and it can still work because it's word of mouth. Somebody has already done the hard work for you and sold you, pre-sold you, to where it's just an easy sale. Where in the reality is, if you're going for a colder lead, you even get them to the point where they're warm, the pitch matters far more here, right? There's way less room for error compared to if it's a referral, if it's an affiliate lead that gets passed your way regardless, right? And so you want to start to think about, like, let me give you a little challenge here, and drop in the comments if you want to get some critique from myself, or if you want to go ahead and have some other people critique it too. Maybe, hey, whatever little benefits you can get, even better. But I want to give you a challenge here, and that's the one-line offer test, all right? Let's go ahead and run this challenge here really quick. If I gave you 15 seconds to pitch your offer in front of a room of seven-figure earners, could you do it, right? Let's just say if you're in the business niche, right? If I gave you 15 seconds to pitch your offer to folks who are looking to lose weight, right? A room full of them, could you do it? If you insert your avatar, if I gave you 15 seconds to give them to pitch them, right? 15 seconds, could you do it? This is how you really need to see it. And this really starts to segue into this idea of it's got to be extremely clean and clear, right? Clarity. I used to always kind of talk about this here. Clever over clear, clear over confusion. Clever can be phenomenal, but it has to be clear, right? It doesn't go, because really too often we go from like clever to confused to clear. It's just all over the place, where we're trying to be clever, where it's just being way too confusing with how we verbalize pieces. So this is why we've got to really hit home on the sense of, all right, yes, the goal for me is to be super clear. Now, how can I potentially add a little bit of cleverness on the top of that? Let that be the cherry on top, but let the clarity be what hits home. because really being clever can honestly be a waste of time, and it's almost like 8 times out of 10 you're better off just keeping stuff extremely clear and straight to the point, because it's going to really be that much easier for your prospects to digest. It takes time to get something that's very clever, to be honest with you, but I would say that's clever and really converts. But the reality is the best marketers out there are avoiding a lot of cleverness, to be honest with you, or their clever is not as clever as you may be expecting it to be. So we need to go ahead and create a one-page visual. This is where I've been teaching this for years. I've been implementing this for years. I went to a mastermind back in, let's say, early 2022, and I remember there was one person who broke this down, how they were doing this. Basically, they were just sharing how they walked their prospects through their system, through their strategy, through what they offered, and how at the end of it, it just, because it was so visual, it really hit home. And I remember seeing that and thinking, I need something like this. Like, yes, like I was doing well, but at the same time, like it would just like it just made so much sense. If they could have something they could truly follow along with, I would argue that most people are visual learners, right? And maybe there's obviously so many different types of learners, but having a visual aid in most educational spots, institutions, they're giving visuals for a reason. So you want to go ahead, if you want to quickly educate and effectively, you need to have this paired with this 15-second mentality here, right? Because we don't want to have here is 30 pages of, 30-page breakdown pitch. Obviously, for some offers, I have some clients in the insurance space, and sure, like if you have to, some of the stuff does have to get very intricate, but the reality is, I'd still argue you want to try and keep things as simple as possible. And that's why I want to go ahead with this. That's how this all comes together, with having a clean one-page visual, in my eyes, with 3 core pillars that really create clarity and just better conversions overall, right? And so the big piece that we have to understand before we get into this is we need to understand what your core pillars even are, right? Because I'm such a big believer in understanding your core pillars. I like to have 3. You can have, honestly, as many as you want. I think, 3 to 5 is a sweet spot. Sometimes, shoot, if you just have one big thing, like that's even better. Less is more. Simplicity over hustle, right? But the sweet part about having this is that, let's just say you have 3 core pillars. This not only gives you clarity of your pitch in advance, but this also gives you an opportunity where you can truly poke holes in your prospect strategy right now, in their current strategy. So you can then pair your solution as the perfect match. This is something where it has been a complete hack for me. And this was I learned, I probably got this from a mentor a few years back as well too, where I remember they were reviewing one of my sales calls and I was just asking questions, digging deep, quote unquote, right? Digging out some pains, discovery. But the reality was I just kept on coming to the point where I was asking pointless questions, right? It's like, and it's almost like when I got to my offer, as I got to this point of where I'm sharing my offer, it didn't hit home as hard. And so that's where, but I did have these core pillars already in existence. I just was making the mistake of not digging for those during the discovery phase. So the core 3 pillars, or core pillars in a sense, is not just about having clarity within your pitch, but you want to make it so that you're actually setting up your offer later on in the conversation. And especially if you think about it this way, it's like that's in the sense of a DM convo where you're leading to the offer, a sales call where you're leading to the offer. But in the same sense, it can be with your content when you're trying to pre-sell and really break down these false beliefs. It can be very powerful when you do this. And so in order to do this most effectively, you've got to already know your prospect's pain points. And this is going to absolutely come from you being in the pocket with what you're doing, right? I always say to my students, let your business fuel the content. Let your business fuel the content. This can be extremely powerful when you take this approach. So the way you want to see this is really, I would say one of the most powerful things you can do in sales is tell someone and explain to them what they're feeling without them even telling you. If you can really hit this on the nose for them, the more specific and intricate of an example that you can give that is something that is currently happening in their life and their business, the better, the more powerful this actually can be, right? So a tip that I can kind of share with you as well too is also telling them something that they're already thinking, kind of point out that elephant in the room. I had a client myself there where she's a student of mine right now, and I had a call with her. I remember earlier on in the conversation, this is a person where she's reselling a course, right? And so for her, she was, that was kind of what she was coming in. She's telling about ideas, the avatar she wants to speak towards. And I remember telling her, I was like, hey, what you really want, and I'm sure I worded this kind of like, hey, like, let me know if this sounds like what you actually want. But basically, what I was the blunt side of it was really, hey, what you really want is you want to have a successful business. Like, be honest with me. Like, you aren't concerned with the how as much as far as, the exact avatars you're speaking towards. I can tell that a lot of people having people do these avatar worksheets and all this stuff. I'm not even mad at that. But the point is that you don't even really care about that. You were just kind of told that you had to narrow down a certain way. I'm not here to dispute that or not. The point being is that deep down, you don't really care about that. And so when I was able to share that with her, it ups my authority that much more. When she like literally she confirmed. She's like, yeah, like that's I don't really she's like, my goal is to be able to resell this course, get sales with it, and which you can also argue that there's a deeper end goal that she's working towards as well too. This has come from me understanding, being able to pinpoint those pain points, pinpoint the reality behind the actions that this person is taking. It's come from me speaking to so many folks that are in a similar position. And that's why I'm always saying, let the business feel the content and just really get out there, hear no's, just get out there and start talking to your audience faster, because that's going to really get you to where you want to get to a whole lot faster, right? So using a structured pitch deck helps turn your offer into an asset that you can actually improve, right? Because you can improve it, you can refine it, you can share it, and you can sell with it consistently, right? And with consistent feedback, not only are you making your program better based on the no's, to be honest with you, like you'll also get better from the yeses, right? As clients come through, see where the process goes, see what they like the most, come back and update your pitch deck from me, your one-page visual, based on the no's, which is extremely important. I remember early on when I was making one of my visuals for a new offer I was rolling out, I remember I shared something and it just had it was one page, it was clear, but it had a lot on there. And so that's where for me too, I even have it now where almost every time I have like two versions basically. Because I know that some people are looking for a bit more intricate, but some people want that high level. And so being able to read between the lines in advance, it can help to make sure you're sharing what they're actually looking for someone where it's like, if you give them too much information, it's going to bog them down, right? Because once again, there's a wrong way and a right way to kind of do this one slide example, if you will, here. The wrong way is 20 different bullet points, right? 4 different logos across the page, paragraphs everywhere, this, that, and the other, 27 pillars. The right way is a clear 3-pillar layout, right? 1, 2, 3 really hits, minimal text. We want to make sure that it's a higher level. Let them ask the questions that we can now go ahead and give them, add the specificity towards, instead of just adding specificity across the entire thing in advance, and really giving them a clear visual path on top of, this is a big one, a big win, right? We need to make sure that includes the big win as well too, right? Most people, without a doubt, most coaches and creators who are making these pitches to their prospects, potential clients, prospective clients, they're struggling with overcomplicating. And I see this time and time again. I have a client as well there too. I mentioned him before, Alan, where he was over explaining everything on his sales calls, right? And just wasn't getting to the core of the best parts of where he truly helped people. And I'm very familiar with this avatar, so it was easy, but basically I helped simplify his process to the core 3 pillars, and really, like, it happened like over the next coming months. He started using it, and without a doubt, he literally told me this verbatim, that he has been able to make more sales because of it. And it's just because we can get so in the weeds and thinking that everything about our stuff, right? Our stuff don't stink, right? It's like, so we can just go too far in that direction where it leaves us in a place where we're just going so deep into the nuance, the minutia, if you will, where it's just not going to put you in a good spot. So that's where we need to really simplify, right? The moral, if you will, is clarity closes, complexity kills, right? Clarity is what's going to close you deals, and the simpler you can have it, the easier to understand. The more complex you have it, the more questions they're going to have, the more they're going to ask you to send over specifics, the more of all this stuff is going to start to happen for you, right? So comment simple down below if this is hitting home for you on that end front. All right, so now I want to start to get into, like, all right, you now have the understanding. We now have these ideas kind of drilled in. We understand justice. I got you. I'm being I got my cape still on. I'm trying to save everybody. Right? Like, how do I start to implement this that much more? So the way I see it you can kind of break this down into, I'd say, like four kind of main sections as I see it here. Number one is the intro, right? And with the intro here, this is like there's kind of two phases of the intro. I like to have an intro as kind of like this. Let's call this the non-required intro here. One intro you can start with is just this idea of having a story, right? Having a personal experience that you share with them, having a customer experience that you share, a common customer pain point, some kind of statistic, if you will, that like drives a pain that's relatable to the outcome they're looking for. The reality here is, and another big one is like, I even always love to have like a personalized kind of pathway based on what I learned in the discovery. That's always really good if you're having a one-on-one conversation with somebody. And so the point being here is that you want to kind of have this thing that starts to bridge the gap from where the conversation was to where you were at before to now you're starting to step into the pitch, if you will. Right. So this intro is a powerful point here. So if you can have any of those, there's so many different stories and everything I just listed to you, these interesting facts. Think about one that would actually be, that would drive some transformation, potential transformation with your prospect to want to take action, to kickstart it off, right? Think about yourself. Put yourself in their shoes. It's not about what you care about. It's about what they care about, what they're thinking, where their mind is taking this. I always view it this way. Whenever you're in a conversation delivering a pitch and you're sharing specifics, the prospect is playing the movie in their head, right? They're hearing that you're giving support inside of your pitch as a part of it. They are playing that movie. They're playing the visual in their mind right now of what it'll look like when they're on a Zoom call with you. And now they're experiencing that inside of their house, right? They're experiencing what they're seeing right now on your side, how it might look. They are playing this movie in our head. And so we need to go ahead and have this intro that can start to bring that to life, right? So now this starts getting to really the kind of secondary intro, but let's call this more of the promise in a sense here, right? I would say that everyone needs a promise within your pitch, right? So it's kind of like what's the whole point of this pitch is all about? What's the implementation path? The reason we're here today. That's how you got to open up the promise, and then it gets into the agenda of it, which is really how you're going to help them to hit X, right? Whatever that result is, I want to help you hit X, and I'm going to do it by insert pillar 1, 2, and 3. And each pillar is a solution here. If you haven't set up your pillars to be solutions, you're heading in the wrong you're heading in the wrong direction. But this is a big piece. So that's how we jump into, if we call that's like kind of the first true section right there, right? This kind of promise message summary section. The next section, that really now kicks into the core 3 pillars, right? I say core 3, I'm a big fan of 3. I always say we're like this. It's like, think about when someone's breaking down, they're sharing a cell phone number or their phone number with you. How do they do that, right? They break it down in 3s, right? It's 712-397 da 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 da, right? It's like there's this power in 3s here. So that's why I always love to go this route. So the 3-pillar framework, and you want to have real examples, obviously going through this. As an example, it's like, let's just say, here's my 3-pillar framework where I teach about marketing, sales, and fulfillment as an example, right? And so now within each of these 3 pillars, we want to keep this, and let's keep in mind what I said to take a moment to step back here. Within all of this, with each of these sections, they really should not be more than a few lines each. That's the goal, right? Because like I said, we want to be able to share this in 2 minutes or less. Like it should be possible to do that. Because the simpler we have it, the easier it'll be for them to truly understand the message and let them ask questions about where there's a lack in understanding. So with each core pillar, we really want to start to look for these 3 main pieces. Number 1, what's the pain that they're going through this core pillar helps to solve, right? Number 2, what's the solution that really now, how does this product or service solve that problem, right? And then the why, we want to get into now, like, all right, why to get started with this right now? Why is it important that they have this in their business? And then really beyond that, we want to ask, what questions do you have? And this is another nuanced thing that I learned as well early on. It's not, hey, do you have any questions? It's what questions do you have? Do you have any questions implies that you may not have any questions, right? So now they just might feel like, let me not ask it. We want to say, what questions do you have from that, right? It implies that we want to know those questions. I want to know what they're thinking, right? So this is a big element. This is a large element here as far as with the core 3 pillars. You want to break this down in 3 chunks and want to hit all of these for each pillar, right? Each pillar, it's what's the pain, what's the solution, what's the why, and really then what questions do you have after each? That's how we really want to hit home on that. And then from there to really now bring it all together is the call to action. Once all questions are answered, you want to tell them what the next steps are to get started. And here's a big thing, you want to assume it's the right fit to move forward unless slash until they've told you otherwise. This is the philosophy. This is how we want to actually march forward here, is with this mentality, right? And now if we start to think about how all of these can visualize together, you can very simply have this where there is this kind of promise piece. Let's imagine this on once again, a one slide, if you will. We have the promise sitting right at the top, right? Here's the overarching promise, the end goal we want to get you towards, right? Just below that, we have the three pillars, right? We have these core three pillars, 1, 2, 3, right? They can easily be side by side in that sense. We bring it down one more step, we have the call to action. Now, the one other piece that I have not spoke about here yet that I mentioned earlier is this idea of having a big win. For myself personally, I do enjoy having that big win fit somewhere just before I start to get into the three pillars. Or at the very least, I want to make it as a part of like kind of right around that first pillar I'm bringing this up. Because having this is giving them that no-brainer mentality and action, and that's where we can start to actually architect the pitch off of this, where we're hitting them so early on with this thing that we just know is going to hit home for them. So now the rest of it, it feels like a cherry on top, right? Feels like the whipped cream, it feels like the frosting on top of the cake here. This is how we want to go ahead and set the pitch up, because it really gives us, we're hitting them with the promise, then we're giving them this easy path to get there, at least this perceived easier path to get there than what they've been doing. And once again, the clearer that can be, the simpler that can be, I'd argue the better it can be for you inside of your business. This is where stuff can really start to jump out and take action for you in just a beautiful way. All right, so with that being said, take action on this stuff here. I'm telling you, this is really where the good start to kick in, when you can start to get to this point in a conversation where you've gotten a warm prospect, you're leading them down this path, you're going ahead, you're getting to the point where they want to hear your offer, and now you are going to stop dropping the ball, because you're going to simplify pieces and really give them an efficient way to hear it and get to the next stage, right? So that's what we really want to tap in there too. And I would say this as well, if you're interested in how I've been able to even like delegate and structure my business to kind of go deeper in this direction to build leverage. Because for me, I know the more time I can have to really dial in my offer and understand the simplest way to get it across to my audience, and really just focus on repeating that action over and over again. I've got my 30-minute coaching system where I actually break down all of this and more, so you can avoid my mistakes and really just copy the best parts of what's helped me get to my business to sell nearly $2 million and beyond in coaching here. So the link is down below in the description. And if you want as well too, I also have a video that I'll drop this up top here, how to build a personal brand that sells, right? If you're looking to strengthen your close rate even more with an element that will also allow you to charge even more without putting extra effort, like in all this kind of extra stuff, like check out this video here. I'm telling you, it'll be huge for you. Stack that knowledge with this, and you're sure to take off inside your business. All right, but that's it for now. I'm going to let you get rocking. I'll see you next week with the next video.